What dying on every drug feels like.
The pencil incident. Shrooms are a natural psychedelic that cause hallucinations. About 30 minutes after eating...
The pencil incident. I thought this was about dying on a drug. What, did he fucking kill himself with a pencil?
Shrooms are a natural psychedelic that cause hallucinations. About 30 minutes after eating them, colors get brighter, patterns start...
No, it's like 15 minutes, dude. It's like almost instantly. It's terrible. It's not like edibles. Also, I gotta say this shit. Whenever somebody says to you, oh, an edible takes an hour and a half to kick in, you're fucking lying. You're fucking lying. If I ate an edible, I'm feeling that shit 20 minutes in. Not to the peak. Yeah, it'll peak 2 hours in. But like, I'll feel that instantly. Mushrooms, 10 minutes in, I'm tweaking. Not like tweaking, but I'm like, I feel it.
Rolling on the walls, time stretches like taffy, and your sense of self begins to melt. Your brain is rushed into a state of euphoria, leaving you questioning what's real and what's not. But what happens when you take too much? On a calm Saturday afternoon, a 21-year-old Hispanic man would return home from work and consume an unspecified quantity of shrooms. Shortly after consumption, he started...
You don't even really need to take that much to freak out, man. I've had friends that are like, you know, big weed heads that have... I've told the story about it, where I had a friend that thought he was in the movie Get Out, and he wanted to call the cops on himself, and he thought I was a fucking part of the Nazi regime. Like, dude, some people can't handle that. Like, it's scary, right? Like, you could take like 2 grams and crash out. Like, you could literally like tweak. Oh, I haven't told that in a while. This was like a few years ago. We were out at an Airbnb. My friend took like a few grams. He only probably took like 1.5 grams. It might have been of like Trinity or penis envy, so like a strong mushroom. But he was like freaking out, and he was like, I'm gonna smoke this blunt. It's gonna calm me down. And I went, no, it's not. In like the nicest way possible, because I didn't want to freak him out, because I know he was tripping as well. So then me and my friend started playing Multiverses back when that shit was popping. And I'm fucking maining, you know, Superman, and I'm playing Harley Quinn, and we're like, you know, going at it. And behind me I hear, yo, man, you're not real. And I go, pause the game, because we're playing local, right? And I go, me and my friend simultaneously turn, and I'm like, uh-oh. And my one friend is holding him by his shoulders, like trying to calm him down. And he's like, bro, you need to give me your keys, man. Because he's already panicking. He's like, this guy's going to freak out. He calls his mom. He starts talking to his mom about how like just random, like not philosophical shit. Well, you think it's philosophical, but in reality, he's just like, oh, life's an illusion. Fucking the firmament. You know, he's just spewing fucking crazy shit. And then he like almost starts like fighting us, and he's like, I'm gonna call an ambulance. I'm gonna get out of here. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? I'm like, calm down, man. And we finally like talk sense into him. He like falls asleep. Next day, he was like, yeah, I was ready to kill y'all. I was like, whoa, maybe you shouldn't do that. So yeah, you could like tweak on any amount. Off 1.5? Yeah, 1.5 a high one. It's also just, dude, it's like psychedelics are not... I would say, like, I did a whole philosophy video on psychedelic drugs and, like, what I've done and, you know, what I think is, like, you know, my own personal experience and takeaways and the negatives. Psychedelics are so... Some people just can't take them, man. Like, I think they're dangerous in general. Like, you got to be, you know, wary and safe with everything. But it's like, that shit, dude, you could be in a... Even if you're in a bad mindset, like, say you just got through a breakup and you just take shrooms, you're going to have a terrible time. You're going to have because all you're going to think about is that. If you're ever going through something, it's just going to bring it to the forefront of your mind. So unless you're in like a perfectly mental clear headspace, you never want to be on that shit.
Experiencing a bad trip and begun acting erratically upon arriving to his house. His stepfather and brother would step in and restrain him to try to calm him down, but he'd break free of their grasp and also break a glass vase in the process. In his frenzied state, he'd then begin to rub himself against the glass shards on the floor and severely injure his arms and legs. His brother and stepfather would successfully intervene to stop him from injuring himself any further with the glass shards, and he'd be...
I would duct tape him to a chair. He started fucking rubbing his body against shards of glass.
Shockingly enough, In a horrific act, he'd take a number 2 pencil that was laying on the desk, stand it upright, and repeatedly smash his head on the sharpened pencil. When he raised his head, he'd reveal that he jabbed the pencil repeatedly into both of his eye sockets. He would stand up again to do something else, but quickly vomited on himself, leaving his family in a state of total panic. Emergency services were called, where they tried...
I would think he was on, like, bath salts, bro. If somebody came, bro, he ran into the house, started rubbing glass on himself, stabbed himself in the fucking head with a pencil.
Desperately to save the young man's life, but unfortunately, they would only get so far. Shrooms are one of the least toxic substances in the world. You'd
least toxic, they have the least deaths, least overdoses.
Need to eat dozens or even hundreds of grams to fatally overdose. But that doesn't mean people can't die from it. Most fatalities come...
Yeah, most people that are dying from mushrooms are having a bad trip, and then they, like, think they can fly and jump out of a building. Or they, you know, get in a car and decide they want to drive. You know, shit like that.
From behavioral toxicity, panicking, jumping out windows, walking into traffic, or doing something fatal during a full-blown psychotic break. You won't pass away from the drug itself. You'll pass away from what it does to your mind.
A lot of people have been asking me to re-release merch, and I originally didn't want to do that because I think it ruins the limited ability that the merch drops have for the week or two that it's out where you can get it at that time. But since we've gotten so many requests, I thought it would be a fun idea to do a re-release in the summer of some of the most popular designs of the previous, 3, 4, 5 merch drops that I've done in different color schemes. So you can see we have some previous things here in different colors, as well as the Memento Mori pants. 1 minute, this is like the fucking 10th reshoot. God damn it. A more Fati shirt in blue. There's a bunch of different colors. Some of the original ones as well. Check it out, joebartolozzistore.com. It will be out for like a week, 2 max. Then the next real new drop will be in November. But if you want to catch any of the merch that you previously might have missed, especially in different colors, go check it out, joebartolozzistore.com. Thank y'all. Let's get back into the video.
The Gator incident. Now let's talk
They
about...
come from poop. They do come from poop. There's people in Florida that's jobs are, well, they're not like hired employees. They do this illegally. But they just do it for recreational use, and they don't want to pay for them. They'll go into cow farms in Florida and just look for cow shit and just pick out the mushrooms that are growing in it. Because those are the ones that are just generally hallucinogenic.
Meth. When it hits, you feel invincible. This substance cranks up your sympathetic nervous system and causes an explosive release of dopamine in your body. Your heart starts racing, you become laser focused, and you'll be filled with unstoppable energy. The high can last 8 to 16 hours. No sleep.
8 to 16 hours off meth? I thought meth was a short high. That's what they made in fucking Breaking Bad. Did they just portray that badly in Breaking Bad? Because when they show the meth in Breaking Bad and they show them doing it, like Jesse Pinkman will be like, "Oh yeah, that's good," and then 10 minutes later he's normal. Is he still just high on meth, but he's just not showing it? Like he'd be like tweaking.
No food, just intense stimulation. And when you take too much, your body turns into an absolute war zone. On May 26th in Orlando, Florida, concerned bystanders would phone a call to police officers to let them know that there was a man on a racetrack shaking violently, asking to see his son. When police arrived, he was nowhere to be found, until suddenly he was located in a lake, full of alligators. Officers would try to throw the man a life vest, but he'd refuse it and would start getting attacked by the alligators in the water.
Oh my God, he ran into a lake with alligators on meth.
To officers' surprise, like it was a scene straight out of a horror movie, the man actually resurfaced out of the lake, covered in severe injuries and carrying gardening shears. He would charge at the officers in their car, and in response, they would tase him repeatedly, but it would have absolutely...
He lived? Like, the alligators didn't kill him? He ran out of the fucking lake and charged... Where did he even get garden shears from?
No effect. It was only when the man jumped into the passenger seat of the police cruiser and tried reaching for a rifle in the vehicle that officers finally used lethal force. Meth hijacks your brain's reward.
I feel like in that instance, I'm probably going to try and use lethal force earlier. If a man on meth survives an alligator attack and runs at me with rusty garden shears, full speed, I'm immediately going, this taser's not going to stop this guy. Like, anything that I do outside of killing him is probably not going to stop him.
Reward system and sends your body into overdrive. It burns out your dopamine center and disrupts your central nervous system so much that your body both loses touch with reality and can no longer regulate.
Hitler was on meth? Dude, there was a lot of soldiers in World War II that were on meth to keep you awake. We watched a video about that. Meth-fueled Finn. It's like a fucking, there's multiple stories. In earlier wars, to keep people awake for long periods of time, they would just give you meth. It'd be like pills, and they weren't called meth, but it was meth. Like, you would just be awake for fucking 3 days. Even in modern times, I have a friend that served in the Middle East and in, like, China, South Korea, watching, like, U-boats and shit. And he said that a lot of the guys that he served with would basically sleep because they would have to sleep. So they'd lay down. Where did I hear this? Was it from him? I think he told me this story. They would lay in a fucking, like, not a trench, but they'd lay in like an area that would be impressed into the ground. Like, they dug it out. And they had to have people, like, watch them, right? Because obviously while they're asleep, they could get ambushed and killed. So they had to have somebody that stayed awake. And the guy that they would have stay awake was the dude that was, like, watching the aerial shit from above that would, like, drone strike people. And he would have to stay awake for, like, a week or, like, 5 days or however long it was. So they said he would just be on fucking meth, like, the whole time. Like, meth or whatever drug they gave him. And he would just be, like wired. Because while they're sleeping, they just hear the ground shattering. Because this guy that's been awake for fucking 72 hours is just fucking bombing people that are closing in on them.
Regulate its temperature. Your organs can literally cook from the inside out and cause you to collapse. You can have a heart attack, or you could simply just go on a rampage and meet an early...
If the normal human threshold for no sleep is like 5 days and then you hallucinate, I feel like you start hallucinating before then. I think it's like 2 days. If you stayed awake for 48 hours, you would probably have, like, low-level hallucinations. Not to the point where you're seeing things, but, like, you might hear some shit that's not there, like noises or whatever, and then, like, 3, 4, 5 days in, you're probably going to be full tweaking.
The 108th incident. Weed is by far one of the most commonly used substances in the United States. Within minutes of smoking, you're relaxed, music sounds better, jokes are funnier, and you get really, really hungry.
No, it depends. It depends on the weed. It depends on the person. I know people that smoke weed and don't get hungry at all. If anything, they're actually less hungry. I get really hungry. If I get high, I could probably eat like 5,000 calories. I've thought about doing that one challenge that YouTubers do where they get 4 people in a car and you go fast food place to fast food place and you just have to order what the person in front of you got and see how many fast food places you could go to. I would sit in the back of the car and just get so high. I think I could eat an entire KFC chicken bucket if I was high. Like a bucket. No problem. And I'd be like, yeah, I need more. Drink a few sodas.
You might feel euphoric, or anxious, or both. It depends on the strain, your mood.
Yeah, you ever get so high you start twitching? That's the worst. I'm laying down. I feel like I'm stun locked. I feel like I weigh 10,000 pounds. I'm just going. That's a bad high. That's not a fun time. That's actually the worst. Eye twitching. I've never had my eyes twitch, but it's never on like smoking. But there's times where I've been with my friends and he's like, dude, eat this edible. And it'll be a homemade cookie. And it's just an indiscernible amount of marijuana. And he'll be like, they're anywhere between 10 and 50. And so I'll eat 1 or 2. And then like an hour and a half in, I'm just like, oh my God. Like I can't even, like I'm not tired, but I can't sleep. Because if you try falling asleep, you actually start like tripping. Because you're like, you're high on the edible weed and that becomes like hallucinogenic almost. And so I start hearing like fucking auditory things. Like there was one time I was watching Family Guy. I started falling asleep and they played this song and I swear to God, like the music entered my brain and I felt the sound like reverberating off the inside of my skull. And I went, I like stood up and I was like, I'm dying.
Food and your brain chemistry. So what happened?
I'd be thinking of people who were walking in my house. The most high I ever was the time I was hanging out with Brooke and it was Halloween. and we were watching a Jason movie or Michael Myers, and I deadass convinced myself my life led up to me dying in a horror movie. I was like, wow, I'm in a movie about a guy that's watching a horror movie and he's in one. And that was terrible. And I in the back of my head, I was like, that's not real, right? But I was like, I was corner sweeping, like a Ready or Not rainbow, like side peek. I'd be like looking around.
When you smoke too much of it, well, here's the truth. You can't die from THC toxicity alone. There's no known lethal dose in humans. You'd have to smoke.
Yeah, for you to die from weed, you would need to eat like pounds of it.
Thousands of joints in a short time to even come close. But that doesn't mean weed is harmless. In the spring of 2018 in California, a woman who had just befriended a man.
Well, it's very common. My friend's a paramedic. Not trying to do this friend shit anymore, right? Joe has a friend for everything. No, this is the same guy that I tell half the stories about. My friend's a paramedic. I've talked about him before. He responds to old people like your parents getting too high on weed and they think they're dying. And they'll call them. And it's very common that like people in their 40s or 50s that remember weed from the 80s getting high now, right? And weed has gotten 10, 20 times stronger, right? Like a joint your parents smoked in the 80s is like 1/10 of what it is now, right? Or like 1/6, 1/8. And edibles are even wet or even stronger, especially if it's like gummies. And so he says like once every other week, he actually gets a call from like 50-year-old like couples that decided they were going to eat like 100 milligrams of weed, thinking they would just be like averagely high and like full on freaking out and like calling being like, I'm dying, please.
And at a dog park she frequently visited would follow him home to his apartment for a quick spark up session.
100? Yeah, no, that it's 100 of whatever boof shit or what. Like most dispensaries are getting 10 milligram edibles. That's what I eat. But like, if you get stuff from like gas station gummies are like 50s and they feel like 10s.
Which, mind you, is totally legal in the state of California.
Got to do research. I know, bro. I feel like how crazy you got to be to just like no questions asked. Somebody hands you a weed gummy and you just eat it. Like the first thing I'm going, how much is this? Right. And I'm like, don't lie to me. Cause I've had my friends lie to me. It's 10. I eat it. That was 30. Fuck you. Right. That's like the most common thing. No, it's 10, bro. It's just a regular 10. I eat it 30. Fuck. And then I'm sitting there and you're like, oh, you already digested it. So now you're just along for the fucking ride. Bitch ass friends. Oh no, it's dickhead shit. I mean, it's like borderline drugging, but I'm like, I've never been like mad. It would be different if I was like, what is this? He's like 10 milligrams. I eat it and he goes, that was Xanax. Then I'd be like, whoa, you just drugged me. But if he convinces me to eat a 10 or a 20 milligram edible and then he's like, it's 30, I'm going to be like a little upset.
California. After the two finished lighting up grass through a bong, the woman would unexpectedly shoot up from her seat straight to the kitchen and grab 3 knives.
Hey, could you come back with some chips? And maybe some ice cream? And maybe some chicken Oh! Are you trying to chop up some salsa? I love salsa.
Jim, I'm not making salsa.
In just the blink of an eye, she would stab the man repeatedly non-stop, 100
off weed? She hit a bong and then stabbed him 100 times?
and 8 times. His body would be covered in stab marks from head to toe, and his face would nearly be entirely carved out. Officers that arrived at the scene would find that she had also stabbed her dog, and shockingly enough, had stabbed herself 40 times, and was still in the process of doing it. They would quickly intervene and try
How is she not dead?
physically stop her, but it wasn't enough. Officers would tase her 4 times to try to break her psychotic frenzy, but it would be to no avail. In order to get her to stop, one police officer had to swing a baton at her arm 9 times to break it, and finally...
Okay, I gotta say this. In this instance, I feel like, A, this woman already had predisposition to, like, mental problems. or B, their shit was laced. Because I've never seen or heard of somebody smoke weed and then, like, have murderous tendencies.
He would release her grip from the knife. The man unfortunately didn't make it, but surprisingly, the woman did. And even more
She lived? She stabbed herself 40 times and didn't die?
shockingly, she faced 0 prison time for her actions because it was
What woman who avoided prison after stabbing lover 108 times is appealing. Now his dad is speaking out. Not only did my son not get any justice, our family did not get any justice here either.
proven in court that she experienced what is commonly known as cannabis-induced psychosis.
What? Cannabis-induced psychosis. Some people who have marijuana may experience acute symptoms of psychosis, including paranoia, delusions, disorganized thinking, or even hallucinations. Yeah, man, but like developing worsening chronic psychotic conditions like schizophrenia. That does happen with people, but like to the point where she just gets up and like kills her fucking boyfriend.
The woman was very inexperienced when it came to smoking weed, and that
Oh. Well, she might have been predisposed to like schizophrenia. If you have family members, like if your dad or mom has like schizophrenia or like certain mental disorders, you're not supposed to ever use weed because it can bring it out earlier or like spark it. Same with hallucinogenics.
potentially played a huge role in why she experienced this rare phenomenon. She was placed on probation for 2 years and was required to do 100 hours of community service. The man's family, especially his father, were extremely upset when they heard about this. Understandably so.
It should never have happened. She should have never have been allowed to walk free. She should have done some time. You know, you had a jury that convicted her, a unanimous conviction.
Yeah, man. I kind of want to agree with him. If I smoked weed, tweaked out, and killed somebody, I don't think there should be no repercussion, right? Like you murdered someone.
In less than 4 hours, and the judge went completely against all 3 of those entities and just said, "You're free to go."
The stove.
Or at least have to go get like mental health help, bro. Like even she could plead insanity in that moment and then like go to a ward and get help.
YouTube really didn't like the case on ecstasy that I found. So instead, we'll go over this situation where a 26-year-old martial arts fighter and his sparring partner consumed an unnatural amount of shrooms while in their apartment. Initially, everything was fine, until they became convinced that the world was coming to an end and that the two were fighting a battle of life and death between...
Well, the biggest thing is, even if shrooms is something you can't die of, people that abuse shrooms go insane. Like I remember there was a guy in my college class that was talking about his friend that he can't even hang out with anymore because he's fully lost his mind. He would take mushrooms every day for like 6 months, and he started taping dog treats to the ceiling and like doing really weird shit. Like thinking people were watching him all the time. Like just like full on paranoia and like just doing things that don't make any sense. But like when he tries to explain it to you, he gets mad that you don't understand it.
God and the devil. The two would begin their legendary battle, and finally when the struggle
While
finished...
sober? Yeah, because I mean, dude, you gotta think, if you're tripping, if you take mushrooms and trip for 6 to 8 hours, right? 10 hours maybe. At like the longest. When you come out of that, you feel you're in a weird funk for a day, maybe a week, right? Like you're coming out of that, you have to digest the situation. Now, imagine if you're tripping nonstop for like a month and then you leave that. Like reality is no longer reality. Like that, there's some people that are like perma tripping off acid where they've taken so much that it's actually like fucked their brain wiring and they like literally just see hallucinations all the time and they have to live their life like with that.
Their friend would walk into their apartment room only to find the martial arts fighter standing butt naked in the kitchen cooking his friend's heart and remains in a stove.
Oh, what?
Legendary battle, and finally when the struggle finished, their friend would walk into their apartment room only to find the martial arts fighter standing butt naked in the kitchen cooking his friend's heart and remains in a stove. The victim would be found laying on the couch, missing his face, tongue, and heart. And sadly, the autopsy revealed that he was alive when his chest was ripped open and his heart was taken out. the martial arts fighter wouldn't be as lucky as the woman in our last case. He'd be formally charged and sentenced to 47 years in state prison for what he did to his friend. Now, this probably makes the US legal system
Ripping out his heart while he was alive.
come off as a little hypocritical, considering that in the other case, the woman was allowed to blame psychosis for her actions and be cleared of any severe wrongdoing, whereas in this case, the fighter's state of influence was ignored and he was directly sentenced.
And I feel like in this instance, I'm not trying to give any, sort of leeway for this guy, but I feel like you have higher grounds to go, I was in a wrong state of mind when you're on 8 grams of mushrooms, like literally reality is bending with fucking hallucinations versus you hit a bong twice and started freaking out.
But-
like even if you're going into cannabis based like psychosis, like that's surely not as bad as like being on like high levels of mushrooms.
Honestly, that's your opinion to make.
Have you ever had shrooms? Yeah, that's what we're fucking talking about.
When it comes to overdosing on psilocybin, you'll find
And I'm not promoting that either. I really need to say that, right? Like, I know I use weed a lot, and I say, B21, it's legal in your state. Like, don't do mushrooms, right? Like, just because I say I've talked about me doing something doesn't mean you should do it.
that it rarely ever ends you through toxicity alone.
Would you recognize that you're tripping on shrooms? Yeah, you know. If you, like, Men in Black mind wiped me, I think the same thing with weed. I could tell, like, if I ate an edible or mushrooms, and you Men in Black mind wiped me 5 minutes into it, and then you were like, are you on anything? I would be able to tell you. I'd be like, yeah.
You'll need to eat an absurd amount for that to actually happen. The real danger is psychosis, panic, and delusion. Once you compromise the healthiness and
Do
security
shrooms give you feelings or hallucinations? Depends on the amount, depends on the mushroom, depends on the experience, depends on the trip. Sometimes I haven't taken them in a long time, but like, there's going to be times where everything looks double, like everything looks laggy. Like if you look at somebody with long hair, they go like this, it like flows behind them, wood and patterns will warp. You might see or hear things, but usually like a sense of euphoria. If you close your eyes in a dark room, you really start freaking the fuck out.
of your mind for a quick burst of excitement, you'll find that that's where things go haywire. So in other words, don't do drugs. Have a happy day.
Well, that was a video. I don't really know what to say. 2 years of probation, 100 hours of community service for literally killing somebody. I got a year of probation, 100 hours because of graffiti on a wall. Year of probation, 100 hours for graffiti. Stabbing a person 108 times, killing them, their dog in their home gets you no jail time. The woman knew she was predisposed to psychosis and knew she shouldn't use weed. See, that's what I'm saying. She had problems, bro. That's what, like, she had problems. This was not just some random person that's like, I've never used weed before. This is somebody that has had genetic-based, mental issues where they've probably been told you should never use weed. You should never use anything that could alter your state of mind. Because it's like, then you get into the argument of like, what state of mind are you in? Because say you take something, like, I don't know. That's where things get all fucking weird, and that's why, depending on the case, things get muddled. Some people get out, some people don't. Because it's like, do you argue that they're responsible? Because she's responsible for taking the weed, which put her in a state where she killed somebody. But she is arguing that in that mental state, she didn't mean to or want to kill that person, right? So, but if you go to like a harder drug, like imagine like a Florida man on bath salts that like ripped his friend's face off. That guy probably didn't want to do that, but he did want to take the bath salts. So it's like, I don't, what do you do there? All right. We'll watch this next one and then we'll determine if we want to watch it.